Hello everyone and welcome back. Earlier, you might have seen our affordable sports car comparison brought to you by Weathertech. If not, link in the description. But for today, we're actually pulling two of the vehicles from that to compare against each other in the shape of the Mini Cooper S and the Mazda MX-5 Miata. Now these two couldn't exist on more different ends of the spectrum. So Jeff, which team are you on today?
Definitely Team Mazda. I've had a Miata in the past. I've loved living with it day to day. And I could really go for that whole classic traditional sports car lifestyle again.
Interesting, and by contrast, the Mini Cooper S for $25 is a thoroughly modern take on what constitutes fun. So, we're gonna go for a drive and figure these two out. We'll get you back to this unlikely matchup in a moment, but first we're going to take a few seconds to talk about protecting your own car. Weathertech offers complete protection for your vehicle's interior, especially ones like these. When it comes to sports cars, Weathertech offers its classic floor liner for many models. Most work with your OE floor mat clips and protect up to the side of your footwell. And let's not forget the classic cargo liner, which is great for protecting your shiny new sports car from whatever you might need to toss into the trunk. All Weathertech products come with a lifetime guarantee. You can order online at weathertech.ca, shipping is free. Or for those that are local, you can visit the retail showroom at 1164 Walker's Line in Burlington and get your order the same day.
What the MX-5 gives up to the Mini in terms of the accoutrement inside this thing, it more than makes up for in its driving dynamics. The whole reason it exists is to put a smile on your face, and you can't drive this thing without that being the case. It's so engaging. The throttle is crisp and responsive. The shifter it's just a work of art. You've got this little stubby knob here, and the throws are really short, but they're super precise. But you definitely feel how lightweight it is too. And that's what really is the polarizing difference between this car and the Mini. The Mini, you're isolated, you're in this cocoon. The ride is comfortable, it's quieter. This car, you get gear whine, you get wind in your hair, sun in your face, and steering that's absolutely alive, and it wants to play. The body rolls around and it dives a little bit when you brake, and it's all part of the fun. This is meant to emulate a classic sports car, and it still does that, but in a modern, safe, enjoyable way. The Mini is definitely quicker. That turbo 4-cylinder engine has got a lot more poke, especially around town, but it doesn't matter. Like, once you get out on these back roads, this is where this car really shines. When I got out of the Mini and back into this thing, it really, truly is like a night and day difference. This feels unlike anything else that you can buy for anything close to what this thing costs. The Mini, by comparison, sort of feels just like a lot of other regular cars that are out there. Sure, it's got a lot more personality in its style, but it doesn't really drive all that special. This drives special.
Both of these cars have 2-liter inline 4s, but the Mini straps a turbo under that short hood. The result is 201 horsepower, which gives it a 20 pony advantage over the MX-5. Torque is a comparatively massive 228 pound-feet. Now pair that with the 7-speed dual clutch, and the Mini is the quicker car in most situations. They're pretty level if both drivers are really going for it, but the Mini is so much more accessible. Also, it sounds good. To drive the Mini is to experience fast food in four-wheeled form. Now there's an initial hit of satisfaction with this perky Turbo 4 and that keen traditional Mini feel on turn-in. Chasing the Mazda down a particularly challenging back road, you do run into the limits of these all-season tires pretty quickly. What's harder to accept is this numb steering. I find myself taking 2 bites out of longer corners just to deal with the vagueness. As our pal Jerry Vo said in the original 4-car comparison, power is nothing without control. The Mini is fun enough to drive that it eggs its driver on to, well, get more involved, except I just can't. A few times now, I've reached for non-existent paddle shifters. Sure, I can change the drive mode, but that only sort of helps. Similarly, I can flick the world's tiniest shifter down to L, but all it really does is hold gears for longer. Look, I'm not going to chastise Mini for getting rid of the manual, because, hey, truth be told, that old one was only sort of okay. It's just, give us the option to have a little bit more control. Come on, guys.
Where the Mini is all about high fashion, this car is a traditionalist. It's got the classic sports car proportions, long hood, short rear deck, and just generally tidy size all around. There's nothing extraneous about it, no silly spoilers, no extra wings or flourishes. It's just a clean design that, even though we saw it 10 years ago, still looks fresh today. This car, despite its gray paint, looks pretty good because of its contrasting black BBS wheels that just seem to fit the Miata so well, and the little accents of the black trim here and there. That rule of simplicity carries over to the interior of the MX-5 as well. So the Mini has all kinds of these wonderful textures and colors and just little bits of character throughout. By comparison, this car is as simple and plain as can be. The biggest flourish you get are some body-colored panels on the door and a whole lot of plain black shiny plastic throughout. It does kind of feel a bit cheaper by comparison. The one exception to that, of course, these spectacular Recaro seats that feel great, they look great, they're the business in this car. One of the major drawbacks of the Miata is, as it always has been, its relative lack of interior space. There's really no place to put anything in here. You know, you're stuffing your phone into a cup holder, or you're putting your sunglasses wherever you can find a little spot for them. That's not the case with the Mini, obviously. There's plenty of room in there for a much more spacious interior. The same is true for the trunk, which obviously doesn't have much space, and if you're lucky, you could fit a couple of shoe boxes in there and probably not much else. For 2024, Mazda has updated the MX-5's infotainment system, giving it one of their latest and greatest versions. It's wider and it is now touchscreen, but it still feels like it's lacking. It still feels like it's a generation or two behind what the competitors are doing, and especially behind what Mini is doing with its system. Here, you still even have to plug in your phone if you want Apple CarPlay or Android Auto.
So as we keep talking, there is a huge difference between the Mazda and the Mini just in terms of basic shape. This thing is about as bulbous as this giant mosquito bite on my neck. It's still very classic Mini, of course, especially up front where it has this big dopey grin that you can't help but love. This green color is one of our favorites. It's a hero color for the new model. We really enjoy it. These 18-inch alloy wheels, also very sharp. The Mini is a fashion statement. It's new, it's modern, it's what the kids want. Just like the outside, there is a huge contrast between these two inside as well. For one, you don't only have to have one friend with you in the Mini. It's a very adventurous interior with a lot of different knit textures that make the Mini just feel different from just about everything out there on the market today. It's spacious, it's light with this vegan leather interior that is very convincing, and it has a large glass roof. So while you can't drop it like the Mazda, this is still a pretty nice place to spend time. Of course, the Mini has a huge advantage in terms of practicality as well, because not only does it have a larger trunk, you can fold those rear seats flat and fill it up with a lot more things than any Mazda Miata owner can ever hope to fit in their car. Mini has also updated the central touchscreen for 2025, and it is far and away the better choice out of these two cars. For one, it's just really slick looking. It's a 9.6-inch OLED display, and it is sharp and bright. But better than that, it's also just very customizable. There's the Mini experiences, which are so much fun because not only do they tailor the entire look of the infotainment, they also tie in with drive modes. If you switch to go-kart mode, you get a red, white, and black theme and a woohoo to kick things off. If you go to green mode, you get a hummingbird that weirdly turns into a cheetah if you're driving aggressively. Either way, these are the sorts of fun, characterful things that Mini can pull off that no other brand really can. It's not fun in the traditional sense that the Mazda does so well at, but in today's digital modern age, isn't this what the people want?
Starting at just a whisker over 30 grand, a basic MX-5 is a real bargain in the States. Step up to this club trim here and you get these great BBS wheels, the Recaro seats, the Bilstein shocks, and well, then we're at almost $39,000. In Canada though, this car crests $44,000, which makes it a pretty pricey option for such a simple car.
When it comes to pricing, it's very much up to where you live with these two cars. In the US, the Mini actually undercuts the Mazda by a couple $100s, which makes it kind of a good deal considering all the extra kit and space you get versus that little roadster. In Canada, it's a very different story, where the Mini almost touches $50,000. That's just, well, I can't really make the argument against that one now, can I? Well, so there you have it. Even though these cars both drive very differently, in that original comparison they actually tied, but we saw that they got to those scores in dramatically different ways.
Exactly. Where one car's strengths would help bolster its score, it would also offset the weaknesses of the other car. We've got the MX-5, of course, that is just such a pure driver's car, but it's really compromised as a daily driver.
Meanwhile, the Mini feels very in touch with our digital, always online era. It is such a treat to sit in that car, and day to day, it's the easier one to live with. But, Jeff, I think we're here to pick the most fun car.
Absolutely, and especially with weather like this that we've got today, there's no question I think we will both be arm wrestling for the keys to the MX-5.
It's true, so we're gonna do that. So we'll catch you guys on the next video.